a lot going on. There's quite a lot going on where we will be attracting a lot of people to Nuneaton, and then hopefully when the 20 million starts getting spent in Bedworth, we'll be doing the same sort of thing over there. Sweeping, wow, unbelievable. So we've met with our teams. We've been talking about sweeping. We've actually challenged Warwickshire County Council on this because it's an highways thing. So I tried to put it onto Warwickshire County Council as the highways authority. I think they should pick up the expense for it, not a borough council. But obviously they've kicked back because they didn't want the expense of that. But what we have done is started working smarter, not harder. And speaking with officers at Warwickshire County Council, so when they come round doing the gully sucking and whatever, we go round in front of them, make sure all the drains are visible so that county can come after and make our drains actually flow rather than be blocked up. Councillor Brown, on about allowances again. Even if we do put them up, we'll still be the lowest in the country, one of the lowest in the country, and you know that. But you will keep going on about the same thing time and time again. And I've still got to come back to Bulkington because it's in the budget again as another rise of £5,000 to buy Tory votes, and that's one thing that we will never be doing. If we're going to put any money in a deprived area, it'll be Stockingford, which needs it, and it certainly wouldn't be an affluent area like Bulkington. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Jakovic, you wanted to explain the point of explanation?
Yes,
okay?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, Councillor Watkins did turn around and say he doesn't know what I'm talking about. He knows full well that what we're talking about is a Bulkington Christmas light switch-on event. That's what we're talking about here. That was scrapped, that whole event, okay? And we've had to pay for it as residents ourselves, okay? And we're happy to organise it, but we'd appreciate some money towards it, because it's not fair that we're not getting what the other two settlements are in the borough.
Thank you. I have now made my decision. I'm going to let Councillor Conduker to speak, and after that, Councillor Hay, and then I've got Councillor Schumacher reserved to right to what is it called? Right to reply. Right, Councillor Conduker.
Thank you. I'll be very, very quick. Things. When we talk about the our allowances and things, it was to me, I don't do it for the money. I could manage without the money. But we've obviously been looking at getting candidates, and some of our newer members who want to stand, and we were talking about how the meetings work and what have you and things, and one of them said, but I work in the evenings. And I said, that is precisely why you have an allowance. So the evenings when you are not able to go and earn your money, you will still have some money coming in. And that is why it is so important. And it's increasingly so for younger people. You know, a lot more of them are in the gig economy and what have you, were having to work all sorts of hours and things. So that is why it is so, so important. In terms of member training, yes, there is lots of LGA training, but a lot of it is not free. So I don't know where you get, gain, and £2,000 really is very little. In terms of climate change and doing something, we need to be doing something. The idea that we won't exist when LGR comes in, however it's divided up, I'm sure there's going to need to be some sort of centre in Nuneaton, which I suspect will be in this building, and energy efficiency pays for itself. So I think that's absolutely vital. I won't say any more because most of it's been done.
Thank you. I believe we had enough debate on this topic, and then I believe that we started to blame each other as well, and which for me, wasn't very right thing to do. So I've got two speakers for today for this on this topic. Councillor Hay, you wanna?
Mr. Mayor, just to point out that I did put my hand up as you were speaking about cutting it off. However, I respect your decision and I won't take that.
Oh, it should be Councillor Sue Markham then.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This won't take very long either. So I will be supporting this amendment, as you would probably expect. Our budget, instead of allocating money to projects that have not happened yet and things that are waiting for, well, yeah, it's good to forward plan, but how long do we have to forward plan for? This actually puts funds into things that benefits the residents and businesses alike, such as the car parking charges, the £1.50 for 3 hours. We know it brought footfall into the town, both Nuneaton and Bedworth. And the borough events, that there was an awful lot of residents, both in Nuneaton and Bedworth, that attended these events, and Borkington as well. And they actually, a lot of them did get the community grant for the road closures and stuff, and that allowed them to actually participate and hold these events. The additional sweep across the borough, we did actually put that in before, and it did actually keep our streets and town centres tidy and cleaner than they are at the moment. The parks and the 75k that was put in, that was used for refurbishing, for damage and worn out items, because time and time again we had to go where stuff had been damaged. We had a dog once that had been put on one of these seats and it had to be repaired. That came out of that money. So that's why we wanted to put it all in. It's not all covered by the 106 money. So I will be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hay, you have got a right to reply.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll try not to just repeat everything everybody's said, because I think there's some good points made and some not very good points made. I just want to just mention a couple of things, but the first thing might come as a bit of a surprise, because we actually do agree, I certainly agree, that removal of transport support for NABCEL vehicles is something we must look at. So I actually agree that, right? The only thing I agree, sorry, right? That's right, yes. Yeah. Well, I just thought I'd just give you a little, say, try not to repeat everything that people have said. Obviously don't agree with deleting net zero consultancy. It isn't just about us, it's about everybody who lives in the borough. We've got to get this sorted out. We cannot just hope that it will just all happen. It won't. We've got to actually be proactive about it. And in the same way as we decided to try and be proactive about empty properties, which has worked, where we've got an officer in who started pointing stuff, I'm repeating myself now, started pointing stuff out that we didn't know about, and we're actually making progress. This is what this is about, and we cannot just leave it to chance. I'm not going to. Members' allowances, dear me. Right, look, Councillor Etienne, if you don't want an allowance increase, don't take it. Right, but there are some people here who will need to take it. We are the lowest paid councillors, and it's not supposed to be a payment, it's an allowance, in the whole area. And I just did a quick calculation, and if you divide 11,000 by 38 and then by 52, it comes to just over £5 a week increase. Come on. Now, it has been pointed out by Councillor Rose about, removing advertising investment property. We've got properties lying empty at the moment. We've got to do that. So I'm trying not to repeat everything. Member training. Some member training, I think, is mandatory. When councillors start, they have to have a certain level of training. New councillors after introductions. I do agree that there is excellent training from the LGA, but it has to be a combination of both. It can't just be one or the other. Where are we? Now, we've been working, I know Councillor Price has been working with, as Chris said, to work smarter, not harder, on road sweeping. And we are getting compliments about it. Not perfect, I know. But if I remember correctly, that additional road sweeping round was a one-off. Well, you can't do that. If you're going to do, well, it looked like it in the budget to me. But I'll accept that maybe I'm misinterpreting that. But I didn't think it was going to make the difference that you thought. Car parking. This isn't about doing blanket increases for one thing or decreases for another. This is another example of where we can work smarter. We've put new machines in that are actually easier to use because previously it was either cash or that awful Ringo app, right? Now at least you can tap your card, although I know you can't use cash, but it's got easier for people, we think. But we have differential pricing now round the borough. We don't just say that's one thing there and one thing here. Harefield Road, for example, which was very underused, is £1 for 4 hours. And and what we're going to do is analyse the effect of what's happened. There's a car park review going to be taking place, and we'll look at the pricing, but it won't be one increase here and another decrease there. It will be proper differential parking, not blanket, not blanket bids. Community grants. Right. What we do, as you know, is we give a substantial amount of money to Warwickshire Carver to work with they're nearest to the kinds of organisations that need the help. They understand those organisations. We don't give grants out ourselves, such as like that. We give it through Carver. We also help bid. We're trying to work with the larger organisations, and then they can push funding out to the other ones. We shouldn't be doing this ourselves. Now, I'm a bit puzzled because you're saying that the Borough Party event and the Balkan Christmas lights are in addition to the 20,000 that we put in, but I can't see the 20,000 here. Right, I've got to finish now. But Bulkington Christmas lights, right. Councillor Chechevich, I think you are right in saying that this should be about Bulkington Christmas lights events. But every time I hear you speak about this, you don't add the word event on it. You just say Bulkington Christmas lights. And Bulkington Christmas lights have not been switched off. The event might have been, and I think it's important the local businesses and things run events like that. We have not switched the lights off. If I'm not careful, I shall go round what everybody's already said. Yes? Yeah, and the other thing is, sorry, I forgot to mention this, we are supporting the carnival again this year, right? It was resurrected last year. We are going to support that. We're going to work with them so they can use the roads around the town centre. That's a massive event. When Grayston Place is open, we'll be holding some huge events there. The paddle company want to run events, don't they, and so on. Yes, I know. So anyway, I'm not going to go rambling on now. I am not going to vote for this amendment, apart from that one thing. And I think that can be dealt with outside this meeting. We don't need amendments to amendments, do we? No. Okay.
Thank you. Please sit down and turn your mic off. Thank you. Before we go on to the vote for this proposed alternative budget, I ask Matt to talk about how the vote works, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think just following on from Councillor Wilson's point of personal explanation, I thought it'd be useful just to make it absolutely clear to all members in terms of what the recommendation is in front of you for the purpose of the vote. And I'll let Councillor Wilson, if it's okay with you, Mr. Mayor, to correct me if I'm wrong in terms of what I'm about to say. So, as I understand it, the recommendation proposed by the opposition group has three recommendations set out at 2.1.1 through to 2.1.3. As I understand it, 2.1.1 is the exact same as what was in the original Labour initial budget, so that stays the same. As I understand it, 2.1.2 in the proposed budget from the Conservative group will supersede 2.1.4 of the Labour budget, and as I understand it, 2.1.3 is additional to the Labour original starting point. I just want to make that absolutely clear. These are to either replace or supplement what the starting position was for the purpose of the vote. Is that okay, Mr. Mayor? I'm happy to take any questions or clarify that before the vote takes place. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, also I will ask Councillor Wilson if that is correct.
That is correct, Mr. Mayor, and I will request a recorded vote.
Thank you.
So just to confirm, Matt's explained that everyone's clear on what they're voting for. Okay, so I'll call each councillor in turn. Please indicate whether you're for, against or abstaining. This is for the amended shadow budget from Councillor Amici. Councillor Bird. Councillor Bonner. Councillor Brown. Councillor Bull. Against, yeah. Councillor Clark. Councillor Collette. Councillor Cooper. Councillor Croft. Councillor Chekovic. Councillor Dillon. Councillor Etienne. Councillor Gutteridge. Councillor Hancocks.
Against.
Councillor Hartshorn. Councillor Hay.
Against.
Councillor Hickling. Councillor Hughes.
Against.
Councillor Jenkins. Councillor Kangura. Councillor King. Councillor Condacore. Councillor S. Markham. Councillor W. Markham. Panda. Councillor C. Phillips. Councillor Price. Councillor Rose. Councillor Saru.
Against.
Councillor J. Shepherd. T. Shepherd. Councillor C. Smith. Councillor R. Smith. Councillor Venson. Councillor Walsh. Councillor Watkins.
Against.
Councillor Wilson. Councillor Wright. 17, 21.
70, 21, yeah.
So now back to substantive.
Yeah.
Yeah, does any member wish to speak? That's defeated. Any member wish to speak?
Thank you. It was 21 against 17, so the proposed motion is lost. Now we are going back to the original motion. So does anybody wish to speak? Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We won't be supporting, I don't think it comes as no surprise, supporting the proposed budget before us tonight. I'm sorry to disappoint Councillor Hay, but I actually find that the budget he has presented is rather lacklustre and disappointing. We're each entitled to our opinion, that's the beauty of politics, but if I look at this budget, what is the value added for the residents of this borough? What does it deliver extra for the residents who are paying their council tax bills after we set them tonight? Because it has already been mentioned, but it is worth repeating that a lot of this is back office stuff. Some of it is necessary back office stuff. So where I actually disagree with them, most vehement actually, is your proposal to remove the growth for planning legal support. We are seeing developments, large-scale developments, cropping up across our borough, left, right, and centre, and it's only going to get worse under the Labour government with the increase in the housing targets, and that is making the legal support we need for larger developments much more complex, protracted, and complicated. So we need that dedicated planning legal support, which is why I actually agreed to having that growth item as part of our budget, because we've seen a number of items coming back before planning or residents complaining to us that they are having issues once these developments start about the legal agreements being signed and some of the obligations that these developers actually have. Now, this budget doesn't actually really give anything extra like ours did. There are increased events within the borough, but it isn't targeted. Where I disagree with Councillor Hay is Carver, by all means, has its place. It does. But the little £100, £200 grants for a street to come together to close its road for a festival or something, that isn't Carver's job. That's our job because we pay for it. That is what we do. Again, where I actually agree with Councillor Hay to an extent is local government is the Cinderella of government. It's the easiest place to make cuts because those who make the cuts in Westminster do not have to implement them. They just vote for them, we deliver them, and we get the blame more often than not. So, having been in his shoes, I completely get the dilemma he is in, which is why I actually support those recommendations and was happy to keep them in, about writing to government about the 3-year settlement. Completely agree. It's something that everyone across all stripes has asked for because it would make planning so much easier. Do you know who the last minister was who gave a 3-year local government finance settlement? Sir Marcus Jones, from our very own place, because he knows local government and he knows what those issues are because he's been in that position himself, having to set budgets. So it would be interesting to see if whoever the Secretary of State at this point may be, or even indeed the Prime Minister at this point may be, will actually take a leaf from Marcus's book and give us a 3-year funding settlement. It is slightly disingenuous to say that the revenue support grant has increased under Labour because it has wrapped up the new burdens funding that we were going to get for the food waste service into it. So on one hand, it looks like we've seen a massive increase in the funding, but actually it was somewhere else by a different name, and it's confused everything now because we don't actually know what is our fundamental baseline for the funding for food waste. We all know we've got to do it. We all know it's going to cost us through the nose, but we're going to have to do it anyway. But we don't actually know what the difference is between what government gives us and the actual cost and what we need to find. So completely agree with him on that. But I think we need to correct some myths, and we've heard some myth busting. I think some disingenuous myth busting from the other side. Councillor Hay referred to the Bedworth leisure facilities, the £420,000 extra. That isn't actually a saving as such. That is income because it was our administration that got the funding for the Bedworth Leisure Centre, which means that they will now be paying us to deliver that service rather than us paying them. I will remember sat in that chair as leader of the council when we had the £500,000 deficit to find, and we were told, oh, it's all right, we knew when we were in control where we were going to find it, but we're not going to tell you, no. It was us that went out and got the funding so we could deliver it. And it's the residents of Bedworth who are going to benefit from Conservative decisions rather than Labour folly. And yet again, it was our decision to begin looking at ANPR. I was having those conversations when I was the portfolio holder. 12% parking compliance increase. Yes, it is because we made the decision to tell officers to begin putting number plate recognition in our car parks so that we can then make sure we're getting the funds we deserve. Theirs is a budget which doesn't deliver anything for residents, and it doesn't deserve to be to charge residents the extra 2.99%. They're getting less for more, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Next speaker is Councillor Croft.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. And I don't think I've seen him since January, so I will congratulate the Leader of the Council on his elevation to the top job. And I hope he doesn't take it too personally if I spend the next few minutes being critical of him. And I was amused by his comment earlier this evening that he felt like one of the youngest councillors. And I'm now going to make myself feel very old by talking about how things were back in my day. And I won't go on for very long, but one of the reasons that we had very long budget speeches back when we were running the council is because we had quite a lot to talk about. We had a lot of policies, and we had a lot of themes, and we had a vision for the borough. And what we've been presented with tonight, and as usual, the Section 151 officer and the Deputy 151 officer have done a very good job, an excellent job on balancing the base budget, doing a lot of that work in the background. But when it comes to the councillor funding decisions at the very end of the process, to me, it looks like a bit of a mishmash. Some of the ideas I don't mind. I don't mind the HMO licensing. I think that development control is rather good. But some of them, I think, are particularly bad ideas. So, for example, the amount of money put in for climate change, I know this has been raised, but I think it's a really important point that's worth re-emphasising, is that the sort of return, the effect on climate change, if you are going after carbon net zero at local council level, is so minuscule as to not be worth doing. If we were the Politburo in Beijing or the Lok Sabha in New Delhi, it would be worth doing because those are the biggest contributors of climate change. But here it is marginal. Now, Councillor Hay he used the word hope a few times, but Councillor Hay gave a very pessimistic and cautious speech when it came to the finances of the council. And I can understand why he did that. But at a time when, even with a 3-year local government settlement, he is unsure of what the funding for the council is going to be over the next 2 years, why we would spend that kind of money on sort of these back office functions where the return is going to be so minuscule as to not worth be doing. What I suggest he does is, if he wants to look at energy saving and sort of sustainability improvements in that way, is to put it into the forthcoming transformation programme and look at the investor save reserve, and that would be the way to do that sort of thing. As Councillor Wilson alluded to, I am somewhat cautious on the removal of the planning legal support line. I know there's a bit of an offset, but it doesn't offset what's been taken out of the budget. Anybody who's been around for a while here at the council will know that one of the reasons why everything seems to take forever is because the legal department have a huge amount to deal with, and there are legal issues negotiating contracts. And it's not the fault of the department, it's the complexity of the work. And it would be, I would caution against, or at least want to see more detail on what that's going to involve. Mr. Mayor, just as a side point, I don't mind the Leader of the Council writing to the Secretary of State, but he doesn't need to bring that to Council, because myself and Councillor Wilson did actually write to the relevant ministers before Budget 2022, and he could do that anyway. He doesn't need to bring that into the resolution. So, Mr. Mayor, I do think that this is there is no theme to this budget. The Conservatives presented an alternative budget with very, very definite ideas about what we want to do on civic pride, on economy and regeneration, on cleanliness, and this budget is something of an administrative mishmash. And I think that the role of the leadership is to provide that kind of political direction and that sort of broad thrust to policy, and that's not what we're seeing. And I'm clearly not the only person who thinks this, because I was amused to read in the feedback material at the end that when asked a question on what do you think of the council's priorities, the quote was, would like to know what they are. Well, don't we all, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. Next speaker is Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you very much. And I'm actually quite pleased by our Conservative colleagues pointing out the thing which is basically the foundation of my criticism, is about that this is a mishmash of some of the things which I would disagree were good decisions made by previous administration, which is just being carried over and over and over as it changes from Labour to Conservative. And basically that leads to the story, which I'm reading through the tables. Let me just slightly recap on what the story says. So first of all, it's different from the cover page. It's different slightly from what I already warned is what's going to happen. There's going to be quite a pessimistic picture in Treasury report, and it's going to be very optimistic around the budget and how well we're going to be doing and, you know, hitting all the marks. So first of all, Council has been reducing its financial cushion year on year, internally borrowing against its own cash reserves. And that's something which I heard from Councillor Wilson was quite welcome. But actually what it led to is that in order to avoid external borrowing, because external borrowing is too expensive, the strategy has worked, but it had a price. And particularly, which Councillor Hay mentioned, about that tonight's budget has been cut by £282,500 because of the cash that was earning interest has been spent. Story continues with a business rates reset about non-domestic rates, retention reserve. It's 5 years of accumulated growth gone in a single revelation, not spent on services, not invested in regeneration, simply absorbed by government, reset handed the council bigger tariff to pay and less to keep. Story then reaches its climax, a budget that is technically balanced, because we all agree we need to balance budget, but balanced on 3 assumptions that have not been tested in public. First, that interest rates fall as forecast, which is a big if, and when they haven't so far. Second, it's about transformation strategy. Now, I heard from the leaders that, well, we need to chuck in right? And I'm just quoting just 11 days ago in OSP pack regarding transformation strategy. It says, I'm quoting directly, a draft strategy will be presented to senior leadership team by the end of March 2026, and the work plan may be later than March 2026. Third, it assumes that nothing unexpected will happen, despite the fact that something unexpected has happened every year for the past 4 years at least, if not more. And through all of this, flatline GDP, failing retail sales, rising unemployment. So there are specifically 3 specific things missing from these papers that I believe members should have before even voting today. So first, there's no contingency plan around transformation strategy misses its target. So essentially medium strategy shows 1 million savings requirement in 27-28. There's no published strategies, there's no fallback. Section 151 officer calls the budget challenging, but deliverable. I have a question, deliverable by whom, delivering what, and by when? Second, investment income line, as I said, has been cut by £282,000 because internal borrowing has depleted the cash available to invest. That is not a one-off adjustment. It is a structural consideration of a capital program that has been funded by eating the council's own savings. That money doesn't come back. Third, economic development budget. This is where I completely disagree with the point there. 3 things, economy, economy, economy. If we don't get that, there's not going to be any money in the system. If people can't spend, if they don't have anything to spend, if the shops are not there, nothing else is going to work. So this one specifically is tasked about businesses and reducing vacant units. It increases by just 49,000 according to my calculation. Meanwhile, we have a consultation which has been referred today, and people say that town centre origination is #1 concern. And 40% business register leave that has been keeping town centre businesses alive ends quite soon. So if I can ask a question, if in closing speech leader can address that, what happens if the transformation strategy doesn't deliver the 1 million savings in 27-28? Which reserve gets drawn down? Which service will get cut? Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more speakers? Councillor Watkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No surprise, but I'll be supporting this budget. I think it's an excellent budget put forward for the residents of the borough. A bit disappointed to hear some of the comments that's coming from over there again, but it's what I expect really. Councillor Wilson, what does it support? Well, it supports climate change. We find that quite important really. Rather than putting your finger in the air asking what could happen and what can't happen and what might happen, we'll actually put somebody in place who can tell us what should happen and what will help. So that's one thing it'll support. Selective licensing, it will support that. That's one thing that's a high topic for most residents, and finding out where all of our HMOs are. So that there's another thing it supports. Perhaps if you read it, you might actually see it. The increase in events to try and get people into our borough, apart from all the other things that the carnival, the bid, the different things in the Bedworth Towns Board and things that they're doing. So we're supporting all of them to try and get people back into the town centres, so that the town centres can start living again. Councillor Croft, there's a lot to talk about. Yeah, what we found out when we took over was that's what you did. That is exactly what you did. You talked a lot and did very little. If we hadn't took control when we did, there'd have been some serious problems. Some of the things with the phase 2 that was going ahead had to be changed quite urgently. All you ever done was talk. You didn't actually do anything. I'm not going to touch on the legal part of it because you clearly don't understand that. but I am going to let the leader of the council talk about that because that's his department. But we've got a good budget here, Mr. Mayor, and I'm proud to be seconding this. So, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more? Councillor Condaka.
Thank you. Just a few things, really. I mean, there were some things which I'm very pleased to see, that there was slightly increased funding for homelessness. Still not enough to solve the problem, but at least it... Pleased to see about more money for trees, which is in more of the words. Enforcement for planning is really, really crucial, and selective licensing, all very, very positive things. With the transformation strategy, it's got big ambition, but it's also a big risk. And as Councillor Rose already, said, that would be my big concern as to, will it achieve what you want it to achieve? Hopefully, you'll understand a little bit more about that after the session we've got next week. My other comment would be, I think that fees and charges should have been increased across the board wherever they can, because although we're having reviews on various things to try and make sure the charges are correct and things, there's no particular time scale for the reviews. So I would have said it would be better to increase all those that we can increase that aren't statutory, and then when we've done the review for whichever section, then actually we can then change the fees and charges accordingly, rather than just leaving them as they are and things, because obviously we're not getting the money in. That little bit of extra could be the bit that makes all the difference. So mostly good, few bits that I've got concerns about, but overall reasonably happy.
Thank you. Councillor Dillon.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to speak about, I support this budget and everything that's in it. One thing a lot of the opposition made a big fuss about was about net zero and the 45 consultancy, 1,000 fees, etc. As chair of the health committee, we've had lots of presentations this last couple of meetings, and the last one recently was about air quality in this borough. So I think if anybody, some members were already there that were there, it's interesting that the health of our children is important. Air quality needs to be looked at in the borough. We've got children's health at risk, especially asthma is on the increase. So yes, it might just be something they want to bicker about, and etc. etc. But at the end of the day, it's important that we get specialised people to have a look about savings for net zero, because it's not about us. We're all at an age, but it's about our grandchildren and children that go to school. So I think it's important, because when we see the reports that I've seen, it's really alarming that it's not something that can be ignored, and it needs to be looked at. And we can all Google things, and we can all visually make things like, the heating is on and the window should be open. Those are little things we can change, because we're all adults and we have common sense. But you do need specialised people to have a look at the net zero, because that's what they're there for. It's like Dr. Google. We can all Google everything, but we all need a consultant, a health consultant, to tell us what the specific problem is. So I think that's what I wanted to say. So I do support the budget tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. If there is no more speakers, then I will let leader to reply.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I'll try not to just go over stuff that's already been said, but I just want to come back on a couple of things. Councillor Condacor did say, yes, we'd like to increase fees and charges where we can across the board. And I think this comes back to what I'm about to say about enforcement and legal services and planning. We did mention earlier the need to work smarter and not harder. And what I don't want to do And I think it comes back to things that Councillor Rose has said. It is difficult, but I don't want to just throw money at something and then just hope it'll all be all right. So in terms of legal services and in terms of planning enforcement services where it clearly isn't right, yes, we're wanting to put more money in, but Matt's told me that he's looking, you know, as I keep nagging him, I mean, I hope he forgives me, he keeps looking at ways of doing things better, which may in fact not cost so much. We can't employ lawyers, solicitors here because they can earn twice what they could earn here down the road. It's just impossible. But we can't just hold our hands up and say, what do we do? And I know that Matt, for example, is doing a thorough review of that in conjunction with the whole issue of planning enforcement. Because again, we can't get enforcement officers. I mean, when I started on the council, I was astonished to find we had no enforcement officers, not one. And then you get people get to know that we're not trying to do enforcement properly, and word gets round, and we you know, it just runs out of control. We've got to get this back. It's about funding things appropriately, but then making sure they're organised properly, and that work has got to be done. But I'm not being told by the officers that what we're doing is going to stop them doing that. But we are going to put quite a bit more money into enforcement, licensing, all those things that will actually help the people of this borough. So just coming back to fees and charges then. So for the same reason, Councillor Condacourt, I want to make sure that the fees and charges in those 4 critical areas are actually done properly. I'm not planning for this to be done in 3 years' time. Once this budget is approved, then I want that work to start straight away. Otherwise, I have no further comments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. By law, we need to have recorded vote on this one, so that we'll pass it to Chief Exec.
Okay, as before, I'll call each member in turn. Please indicate what you're for, against or abstaining. Councillor Amici. Councillor Bird. Councillor Bonner. Councillor Brown. Councillor Bull. Councillor Clark. Councillor Collette. Councillor Cooper. Yeah. Councillor Croft. Councillor Chekovich. Councillor Dillon. Councillor Etienne. Councillor Gutteridge. Councillor Hancox.
For.
Councillor Hartshorn. Councillor Hay.
For.
Councillor Hickling. For. Councillor Hughes. Councillor Jenkins. For. Councillor Kangura. Councillor King. For. Councillor Condacourt. Councillor S. Markham. Councillor W. Markham. Councillor Panda. Councillor Phillips. Councillor Price. Councillor Rose. Councillor Saru.
For.
Councillor J. Shepherd. Councillor T. Shepherd. Councillor C. Smith. Councillor R. Smith. Councillor Venson. Councillor Walsh. Councillor Watkins.
For.
Councillor Wilson. Councillor Wright.
The result was 24, 16 against, so original motion is carried. Okay, moving on to item number 11G. Okay. Housing revenue account budgets for 2026-27. Can I invite Councillor Watkins to move your recommendation, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be moving the recommendations at number 2 in the report. but just to put a little bit of background into it and try not to waffle on too much. For 26-27, the overall major repairs element of the HRA capital programme have been increased by just over 1 million. Following the completion of the stock condition surveys, along with the introduction of the AWAB's law, there have been a significant increase in the works required to meet the legislative requirements. Areas where there has been a particular need to increase spending include decent homes works, increase of 600 grand. The council is required to maintain its existing stock in the current decent homes standard. The increase reflects the works identified by the stock condition surveys to maintain a high level of compliance. Windows and doors increase of 535,000. This programme has seen a relatively low historical investment. However, the failure to invest has increased the number of reactive repairs required and contributed to a damp and mould issues in the stock. There remain key areas for maintaining the level of investment, including fire safety works, aids and adaptations, lift renewals, works and electrical safety. It is not appropriate to borrow for investment works within the existing stock, as there is not additional income created from which to repay the additional debt. In relation to the new build properties and acquisitions, the capital programme currently provides for completion of the builds at Chevrolet and Armson in Bedworth. Borrowing with the potential use of one-for-one right to buy receipts will be required for future new builds, and I'm working with Dawn and Linjoy at the minute to come up with more sites for the future. Each site identified will be brought to the future cabinet meetings to consider and approve in the investment. Regarding the acquisitions, we continue to work with developers to identify the potential for newly acquired properties that must be delivered via the 106 obligations. Primarily, the funding for any acquisition is likely to be a one-for-one receipts, given the short time frame from which these must be spent or repaid with government interest. The HRA is a critical point in relation to revenue financing. Following the introduction of self-financing in 2012, the HRA was required to take on more than 80 million of borrowing in order to buy its existing stock. A treasury strategy was implemented, which was a blended approach of differing loan amounts over differing periods. It did not include settling aside funding to repay any of the debt taken out. In 23-24, it was identified that several loans were due for repayment, meaning that the new loans had to be taken out. Given the new loans are a significantly higher interest rate following global changes, largely stemmed from the COVID pandemic, the impact upon the revenue position of the HRA has been considerable. It should also be remembered that from 2016, all social landlords were required to reduce their rents by 1% each year for 4 years. This was an additional and significant impact upon the HRA revenue finances over the long term. All of this has come at a time when additional service requirements are being placed upon social landlords, requiring additional funding. Requirements associated to AWAB's law, customer service standards, tenancy support, etc., are all adding on to the burdens. Therefore, during 26-27, work will be undertaken to streamline and improve service delivery to reduce the level of revenue expenditure on the HRA. Without such actions, the HRA will not be able to demonstrate it is viable for the required 30-year rolling period, something that Councillor Wilson was talking about earlier. It is therefore imperative that the income is maximised in relation to the rent and service charges increases, along with the activities to reduce the expenditure. So therefore, Mr Mayor, I put the recommendations that are set out in 2.1, 2.11, 2.12, 2.13, 2.14 and 2.2. And I'm just looking for a seconder for that, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Second, can I have the second? Councillor Hare, thank you. Does anybody wish to speak? Councillor Roach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Watkins. So just to clarify, so council tenants in this borough are about to receive letters telling them their rent is going up by 4.8%, I understand. If my calculations are correct, it's 4.73 more per week. For someone on a low income, that's not a small number. This is a school dinner or a bus fare. I know, I'm not disputing council is legally permitted to charge this increase. I'm not arguing it's unlawful. What I'm arguing is about choice being made against an economic backdrop, which we heard so far. And, funnily enough, interest rates were mentioned again. One time they're going up, another time they're going down, depending on, whatever we want to say about the budget. Well, and here, what it makes it worse. So I noted on page 247, the same budget that raises rents to the maximum, the bad debt provision, the money set aside for tenants who can't pay, has been cut by 70,000. So council is at the same time betting that tenants will pay more and that fewer of them will struggle. Those things can't be true. So can the portfolio holder tell tenants tonight, is there a reduction in the bad debt provision based on actual arrears, data showing improvement, or is it a budget assumption made to help us balance the books? Because those are very different things, and tenants deserve to know which one it is. Thank you.
Councillor Watkins, you want to reply, or you want to wait? Oh. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're broadly supportive of the HRA budget because usually it is just a matter of regulation and the 30-year plan ticks over, barring some issues that we've had in the past, unfortunately. There is an issue with regards to putting tenants' rent up, and it is always a thorny issue. And it's one that we had to face, and it's one which is never easy. But I think it is important to put into the mix that I think from my last recollection, about 70% of our tenants, it is mostly covered or all covered by their receipt of benefits. So there isn't, whilst there is a risk, there is still, it is mitigated to an extent. But my concern does stem from the same issue as Councillor Rose with regard to the bad debt provision with it going down almost £70,000. Because we know we have had an issue with rent arrears in this authority. COVID did not help, which has been rightly identified. But we are about to go into, in May, the implementation of the Renters' Rights Act. And that changes a number of the legislative requirements for when people can seek possession of the property. And from memory, and I've had to deliver this to a number of registered social landlords over the past couple of weeks, but it is changing that the level of arrears before you can seek possession, but also the notice period before you can seek possession, all of which has an impact on the level of arrears potentially. So whilst it's always nice to think that the bad debt will go down, and it's something that we all hope for, we have an unknown variable coming into the mix right after we implement this budget. So the more prudent and cautious side of me would have wanted to at least maintain that level of bad debt provision until we know in more detail what the implementation of the Renters' Rights Act is going to be. Admittedly, the phase 1 of the implementation of the Renters' Rights Act will focus more on registered social landlords, but it does fundamentally change a lot of the repossession issues full stop across the board. And in fact, local authorities can still do some types of no-fault evictions for a period of time, depending on the tenancy, because that is implemented further on down the line. So I hope that it is a prudent course of action, but I am being cautious because it's an unknown factor that we're dealing with. And I think it possibly needs revisiting, and perhaps the leader and the portfolio holder might want to bring an update report to Cabinet maybe or Council about the impacts of the Renters' Rights Act, perhaps 6 months or further on down the line, because I sit uneasy about that particular line in the budget for understandable reasons. I hope the leader and the portfolio holder would accept. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other speakers? If not, Councillor Hay, you have reserved the right to speak. And then he has the right to reply. Councillor Watkins, you wanna please go ahead.
This is dodgy equipment, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the comments. Obviously, I will be taking them on, Councillor Rose. Yes, you're right. There will be getting letters about the rent going up, but hopefully, in my opening speech, I did point out some of the reasons why we will be putting the rents up, and we need to keep on top of the decent homes. And yes, Councillor Wilson, I've got absolutely no problem bringing something back, because you're right, we're in an unknown factor. We're in an unknown factor with quite a few things, really, but yeah, we'll bring something back. Might be an idea to send it to scrutiny, probably. So I think what I'll do is, if it's okay with you, you don't have to agree now, but I'll ask this to go on scrutiny. And I'll ask one of the scrutiny panels, one of the scrutiny members to put it through on the proper form, and then it gets done properly then. But yeah, unfortunately, people do have bad debt, and it's the way of the world. But hopefully, this will will go towards sorting some of the things out that we need to sort out in the HRA. So, with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll move this.
Thank you. Yeah, finally, I saw some smile on his face tonight. Thank you for that. Right, again, we need recorded vote for this item, so I will pass it to Chief Exec.
Okay, as before, Councillor Amici, Councillor Bird, Councillor Bonner, Brown, Councillor Bull, Councillor Clark, Councillor Collette, who's left, Councillor Croft, Councillor Chekovic, Councillor Dillon, Councillor Etienne, Councillor Kutch gone, Councillor Hancox, Councillor Hartshorn, Councillor Hay, Councillor Hickling, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Jenkins, Councillor Kangura, Councillor King, Councillor Condacor, Councillor S. Markham, Councillor W. Markham, gone, Councillor Panda, Councillor Phillips, Councillor Price, Councillor Rose, Councillor Saru, 4, Councillor J. Shepherd, Councillor T. Shepherd, Councillor C. Smith, Councillor R. Smith, Councillor Venson, Councillor Walsh, Councillor Watkins,
4,
Councillor Wilson, Councillor Wright,
33, isn't it? 32.
Yeah, 32.
Yeah. Okay, 33, 3 abstention carried. $32, I beg your pardon. Item number 11H, Cabinet Budget for 2026-27. Councillor Hay, can I invite you to move your recommendation?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will obviously be moving the recommendations in section 2 of the report. I'd just like to draw your attention, though, to the capital budgets that are set out in Appendix A and for the HRA capital Appendix B. And one thing we're trying to introduce is the idea of having a proper forecast going forward at least 3 years rather than just year on year. But obviously, if people want to know anything, may or may not be able to answer the detail now, I'll be happy to do written answers or, you know, try and answer them now. So I formally move the recommendations in section 2 of the report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Can I have the seconder, please? Councillor Watkins. Does anybody wish to speak? Councillor Wilson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Again, broadly supportive of what's going on, because let's face it, we just need to crack on with a lot of these things that need doing. But specifically on Appendix A, page 258, empty homes works in default, you put a line in for £40,000 for each year, which I'm assuming is part of the overall strategy. Again, these properties will have owners somewhere. Could the leader give an undertaking to make sure that we try and recoup those costs from the owner eventually for doing those works in default, like we've had to do with people who have had non-compliance with enforcement? We then put a charge against their property. I think it's important that we don't let these rogue people get away using our money.
Thank you. Councillor Roach.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll try to be very quick. I just thought I keep repeating the same thing. Again, quoting here directly from papers, it says the financial sustainability of the capital program is dependent upon interest rates and inflation being stable and ideally reducing. Dependent upon things outside of council control. There's no unallocated capital reserves, not a pound. If project overruns, if a grant is withdrawn, if a contractor fails, there's nothing to absorb it according to these papers. I understand that Pingle's emergency last year cost 120,000. That wasn't in the budget. It was covered from general reserves. Those general reserves we all keep referring to here are now also under pressure. That's point one. The point two is regarding the same table on page 258. And unless I'm misreading that, what the profile tells us that council is completing projects like Bedworth Hub, Nuneaton regeneration, and there's nothing queued behind them. No pipeline, no program. Now I know we have a bit of this Schrodinger's cat called Believe in Bedworth. I believe it's not in here and it shouldn't be here. But the question remains, so what's a pipeline? Who is thinking about beyond the budget, about the pipeline of things happening beyond those projects, which has been initiated years ago? Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more speakers? Councillor Kondaka.
Thank you. My big concern is always that things like Grayson's Place are just all lumped together, and we don't have any sort of oversight as to how these different bits are actually happening. Because obviously the hotel and things are. We don't have anything yet about its income generation and what have you and things. So I feel there's just not enough detail, and the regeneration projects need to be broken down as separate lines on the budget.
Thank you. If there are no other speakers, I will let Councillor Hay to reply.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very happy to look at the whole question of empty works in default and to give that assurance that, you know, the whole point indeed of trying to do work on empty properties, and the empty properties officer is actually liaising with a lot of people, is that we actually do start to find some of these people. And we've also, of course, as we discussed earlier, have this contract to see if we can actually find some of these people. So I've got no problem in assuring you that we will do everything in our power to make sure that we're not, you know, left out of pocket. We've got to put something in there to cover it, obviously. Councillor Rose has said several times now that, you know, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. Well, the answer is we don't know what's going to happen in the future, but we have to proceed with any bits of knowledge that we've got, and proceed not completely in faith, but within to move forward in a positive manner with the knowledge that we've got. The only thing I could suggest if we did that was to put £100 million in one of these lines to say, just in case it doesn't work out. We can't do that. You know, you've got to actually produce a programme. The point about Grayson Place and so on, this is a broad capital programme, Councillor Condacor. I do appreciate that on all these projects, we're going to have proper report scrutiny. Some stuff will go to OSP. We can't really describe that in this list and this report. But again, you know, we're spending millions on the town centre, and we ought to be proud of that. This is a list, and the HRA list is a list of things that we're proud and want to do, and we will programme it in. We're not just sitting here with these in just a list. It's pointless. So again, I commend the recommendation to you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Again, for this item, we require a recorded vote, so I will pass it to Chief Executive.
Thank you. As before, Councillor Amici. Councillor Bird. Councillor Bonner. Councillor Brown. Councillor Bull. Councillor Clark. Councillor Collette. Croft. Councillor Cekovic. Councillor Dillon. Councillor Etienne. Councillor Hancox. Councillor Hartshorn. Councillor Hay. Councillor Hickling. Councillor Hughes. Councillor Jenkins. Councillor Kangura. Councillor King. Councillor Condacor. Councillor S. Markham. Councillor Panda. Councillor Phillips. Councillor Price. Councillor Rose. Councillor Saru. 4. Councillor J. Shepherd. Councillor T. Shepherd. Councillor C. Smith. Councillor R. Smith. Councillor Benson. Councillor Walsh. Councillor Watkins.
4.
Councillor Wilson. Councillor Wright.
Okay, the result is 34 and then 1 abstention carried. Item number 11I, Council Tax for 2026-27. Councillor Heck, can I ask you to move your recommendation?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is that extra sheet that was circulated round. Having gone through the revenue budget, the housing revenue account, the capital and what have you, and so on, and the tax base stuff, this report here is actually one big set of recommendations. We've just got to approve the whole report. And this enables the Section 151 officer and all the other officers to actually implement legally what we've all just been debating tonight. So on that basis, I move this document. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Can we have the second, Councillor Watkins? Does anybody wish to speak? Is that no? So this item again requires recorded vote, so I'm going to pass it to Chief Exec.
Get fed up with my voice now, right? Councillor Amici. Councillor Bird. Councillor Bonner. Councillor Brown. Councillor Bull. Councillor Clark. Councillor Collette. Councillor Gone. Councillor Croft. Councillor Cekovic. Councillor Dillon. Councillor Etienne. Councillor Guthrie is gone. Councillor Hancox. Councillor Hartshorn. Councillor Hay. 4. Councillor Hickling. 4. Councillor Hughes. 4. Councillor Jenkins. 4. Councillor Kangura. Councillor King. 4. Councillor Condacor. 4. Councillor S. Markham. 4. Councillor Panda. 4. Councillor Phillips. Councillor Price. 4. Councillor Rose. 4. Councillor Saru. 4. Councillor J. Shepherd. Councillor T. Shepherd. 4. Councillor C. Smith. 4. Councillor R. Smith. 4. Councillor Venson, Councillor Walsh, Councillor Watkins,
For.
Councillor Wilson, Councillor Wright.
This was unanimous 35, so carried. Item number J, local council tax support scheme for 2026-27. Again, Councillor Hay, do you want to move your recommendation? Thank you.
Me again, sorry. The purpose of this and the remaining reports, by and large, are to put into effect changes to our policies to reflect government regulations so that we're not out of line with them. So most of these reports are to actually do that. On this particular one, though, I would draw your attention to page 261 and item 3.4, because as previously reported to the Cabinet, we want to actually review this entire scheme. Obviously, we've got to stay in line with government regulations, but we want to review the entire scheme thoroughly during 2026, and that has already been approved by the Cabinet. So it will have to have, it hasn't been reviewed top to bottom for a number of years. But having said that, then I move the recommendation in section 2, in section 2 of the report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Can we have the second, Councillor Watkins? Does anybody wish to speak? Right, in that case, then this item again requires recorded vote, so I will pass it to Chief Executive.
Okay, Councillor Michi, Councillor Bird, Councillor Bonner, Councillor Brown, Councillor Bull, Councillor Clark, Councillor Collette, Councillor Croft, Councillor Chekovic, Councillor Dillon, Councillor Etienne, Councillor Hancox, Councillor Hartshorn, Councillor Hay, Councillor Hickling, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Jenkins, Councillor Kangura, Councillor King, Councillor Condacor, Councillor S. Markham, Councillor Panda, Councillor Phillips, Councillor Price, Councillor Rose, Councillor Saru, Councillor J. Shepherd, Councillor T. Shepherd, Councillor C. Smith, Councillor R. Smith, Councillor Venson, Councillor Walsh, Watkins,
For.
Councillor Wilson, Councillor Wright.
Thank you. This is unanimous again, carried. Next item is 11K, Crisis and Resilience Fund Policy 2026 and 27. Again, Councillor Hay, do you want to move your recommendation?
You said that with a conviction, Mr. Mayor. Again, Councillor Hay, sorry about this. I am simply going to move the recommendations in section 2 of this report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Watkins, does anybody wish to speak? Thank you. This does not, does it? Right. As before, I'll pass it to Chief Exec.
Thank you. Councillor Michi, Councillor Bird, Councillor Bonner, Brown, Councillor Bull, Clark, Councillor Collette, Councillor Croft, Councillor Chekovic, Councillor Dillon, Councillor Etienne, Councillor Hancox, Councillor Hartshorn, Councillor Hay, Councillor Hickling, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Jenkins, Councillor Kangura, Councillor King, Councillor Condacor, Councillor S. Markham, Councillor Panda, Councillor Phillips, Councillor Price, Councillor Rose, Councillor Saru,
For.
Councillor J. Shepherd, Councillor T. Shepherd, Councillor C. Smith, Councillor R. Smith, Councillor Benson. Councillor Walsh. Councillor Watkins.
4.
Councillor Wilson. Councillor Wright. 353.
Thank you. This is unanimous again, carried. Next item is 11L, Council Tax Policy. Again, Councillor Hay, do you want to move your recommendation?
Again, Mr Mayor, thank you. I'm simply going to move the recommendations in section 2 of the report, 2.1, 2.2 and 2.3. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Can we have the second? Councillor Watkins. Does anybody wish to speak? Councillor Rhodes.
I just want to make a very brief statement. Regarding this one, I just would like to say that I'll be voting no tonight. And it's not because Borough doesn't need investment, it desperately needs. But what I'm really getting concerned here is that it's at the worst possible economic moment. And what we've got here is a budget that contains an unwritten savings plan, unquantified rent convergence risk, a capital program with no buffer in investment income that has been permanently cut because council spent its own savings. On that basis, I just can't ask residents to pay more while they are being given less of the truth and less of transparency. Thank you.
Any other speakers? If no, it's before we're going to go on to recorded votes or pass it to Chief Executive.
Thank you. I believe this is the last one to be recorded now, actually. No more of my voice. Councillor Amici. Councillor Bird. Councillor Bonner. Councillor Brown. Councillor Bull. Councillor Clark. Councillor Collette. Councillor Croft. Councillor Chekovic. Councillor Dillon. Councillor Etienne. Councillor Hancocks. Councillor Hartshorn. Councillor Hay. Councillor Hickling. Councillor Hughes. Councillor Jenkins. Councillor Kangura. Councillor King. Councillor Condacor. Councillor S. Markham. Councillor Panda. Councillor Phillips. Price. Councillor Rose. Councillor Saru.
4.
Councillor J. Shepherd. T. Shepherd. Councillor C. Smith. R. Smith. Councillor Benson. Councillor Walsh. Councillor Watkins.
4.
Councillor Wilson. Councillor Wright. 32 4 against 2 abstentions.
Okay, the result is 32 for abstention 2 against 1 carried. I believe this is the last item of the business tonight. 11M and BBC business rate. Can somebody help me to pronounce this? Discretionary relief policy. What is this? Councillor Hay again. Do you want to move your recommendation? Thank you.
The recommendation to section 2 of the report. Thank you.
Can we have the second? Thank you, Councillor Watkins. Are there any speakers? Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I do hate to detain council at this hour, but this is by no means the longest meeting we've ever had on budget night. Broadly supportive, and I would make hopefully a friendly suggestion to officers that for the next budget they put on the agenda summary sheet which votes are recorded and which ones aren't, so members of the public know which one they are and we can all follow. I'm going to move a slight amendment, and it is a friendly amendment because I agree with everything else in there, but it was considered at Cabinet tonight, that in addition to approving the policy, that section 7 of the report, which is on page, I think it's 307 because it's overprinted, be referred to the relevant overview and scrutiny panel for further consideration. The reason I say this is because the report is actually quite broad in terms of what it says, because it's at, let me try and find it, 7.2, when it comes to the scheme of delegation for the head of Revs and Bens to award, revise or revoke any discretionary relief applications. However, any application which is considered to be of a significant value, and that is the critical phrase, the scheme of delegation does not set out what that significant value is. And I think that the policy should set out those financial thresholds for what officers can approve and what needs to be referred to a cabinet member, because there are a number of us councillors who have been here for a while who remember the old single member decisions where discretionary rate relief was considered by the portfolio holder for finance, the former councillor Harvey. And I think there is an argument to say that if this council is foregoing income and granting discretionary rate relief, if it is of a substantive value, an elected member should make that decision because we are accountable. And I think it should be referred back to scrutiny to consider whether that is appropriate, whether we should go back to that, because this is public money at the end of the day, which affects our services. So I just think it would be useful to refer that back to committee to consider the thresholds of where things go for approval, because that phrase is very woolly. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Wilson, can I ask you to clarify this is your proposed amendment?
Yeah, my amendment is that everything stands, but then Section 7 is of the report on pages 307 and 308 is referred to the relevant overview and scrutiny panel for further consideration and report to Cabinet. So the policy would go through, but I think it just needs further post-approval scrutiny because it's only gone through tonight, and I think that phrase is very woolly and there is a principle involved here about what councillors should and should not be approving.
Thank you. I was just wondering whether we need seconder and then debate. Okay, give us a few seconds. Yeah, can I ask everybody to settle down now? Councillor Hay, are you happy to accept the recommendation as suggested by Councillor Wilson?
Yes, I'm accepting it as a friendly amendment. The reason I was getting a bit concerned, of course, is the report said it's not marked for calling, and we don't want to stop the work going on. But if I'm understanding this, we're going to approve this, but I accept the friendly amendment. The relevant bits go to the scrutiny, which I'm prepared to do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have any speakers? Councillor Roj.
Very, very quick one. On this one, I just thought to mention, so probably you're aware that local, hospitality rate discount obviously will stop from 1st of April this year. So this is very important policy, obviously quite important for the economy. So I would very much encourage, and I think specifically there's a big role for our council to play in terms of communicating the discretionary those discretionary discounts to the local businesses, it's going to be quite essential. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? If not, there is no requirement for recorded vote this time, so we will move on to the vote.
I know, yeah. I feel left out now.
You know what? I'm so glad that we are all laughing now. It's time to go home, isn't it? So, all those in favour, please raise your hand. Check you out. Carried. Very final thing from me. There being no further business, this concludes the business of the meeting of full council tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, those who contributed. Please go ahead.
The Mayor, in the report we have on Appendix F, we have the survey results. Can I ask what's happening to those and what effect will they have on the council? Who is dealing with those? No, excuse me, I asked permission and the Mayor allowed me to speak.
Right, I thought it was not about the agenda, so this is why I allowed to speak. We already voted on that agenda and that it was agreed. If you still have queries, you can still ask through your email to the portfolio holder, and then you will get reply. But I am now officially closing the meeting. Thank you, everyone. Have a safe drive home.